Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Tourismus Namibia magazine, or for that matter, broadcast. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung and then also responsible for Tourismus Namibia. As always, we'll give you a number of topics, destinations, and then finally to the point. And under to the topics, I must say, we start today with Go2 Traveller Transfers, which is a new initiative by Gondwana Collection. And then we also have a look at hydrogen energy, which is obviously a big thing in Davos at the moment. Then we also look at Fly and Help. That's another school that they built up in Kaokerveld. And under destinations, we actually just have a look at Namibia as a destination. So we had a talk there to Gitta Paetzold. And then we also have a NWR Waterberg Park. We'll be talking about that. Quite a nice little contribution by Enzo Amuele, who's a colleague up there. And then obviously under To The Point, we remember last week we spoke about the desert adapted lines, and I was able to secure an interview with Izak Smith of the Desert Line Human Relation Aid. So yes, that's our program for today, and up next we obviously have topics. Yeah, welcome back, and like I said, we've got normal topics again, as always, and one of the more exciting items I thought was the Go2 Traveller Transfers. Now, you will remember that we have from time to time spoken about Gondwana Collection, and they've got all types of items or products and services that they offer under this Go2 or whatever. So in this case now they've started with the Go2 Traveller Transfers, and it's all about launching 9 transfer routes to Namibia's top destinations, bookable as from 20th May, so gone already, and we're up and running, and operational as from 1st of June. So as we speak now, you are basically able to start looking at it. It's the idea is to provide a daily hop-on, hop-off transfer service for travelers. And the reason why Gondwana Collection Namibia came up with this was some of the papers actually wrote about it in the not too distant past. Is that Namibia at the moment, after COVID-19, experiences a shortage of tourism vehicles. So the number of vehicles that can be hired or leased has come down drastically, obviously because companies closed their doors. On the other hand, the floods down in Durban didn't particularly make the problem any easier, because at the moment people simply can't buy vehicles. And so this is quite a nice idea as far as I'm concerned. So remember, next time that you book your holiday and you do it through Gondwana anyway, you might as well consider doing your traveling with that bus instead of doing it on your own. And I remember having a talk to one of the people in the tourism sector quite a while ago, and she reckoned buses are off and they will never be part of our system again. It seems through circumstances this is going to be changing quite soon. Right, and then obviously the big thing on all our lips these days is hydrogen energy. We've in various papers written about HDF energy. We've written about clean energy here. Sven Thieme of the ONL group just spent time in Antwerp, that's in Belgium, where he was testing the application of all these things. And if we look at these various maps that we've got, there's HDF energy, there is the other one was hyphen Oscar, if you can maybe put those maps of ours here, you have it at Swakopmund. There's a big, quite a big plan to get an ammonia plant even going. The idea is to have big time solar plants here, as well as hydrogen production, and the idea is obviously to create energy supplies. The same here with Hyphen. We've all written about it more than once. Hyphen hydrogen energy. This one is not quite as well liked because the idea is to put it into the Tsalkaip National Park, which is the old Speergebiet. Quite a number of people seriously concerned about the impact of that. But the bottom line is Namibia as such is busy placing itself on the map, and so even in Davos in Switzerland, people are looking at what Namibia is doing. We've got these ambitious goals, and so the Mining and Energy Minister Albert Kantjose was giving further details the other day, and he's big into big green hydrogen discussions. And so our president, Hage Geingob, actually said, you know, we're overwhelmed with the response to our hydrogen project so far. So I hope they're being sufficiently overwhelmed at the end of the day that our gas and oil endeavors, I'm not saying we should stop them altogether, but there where they don't make sense, such in Kavango, they be stopped. And so let's see where this is all going over the long term. We've got 3 big time projects that are now seriously looking at manners in which we can introduce green green energy instead of looking at gas and oil. And then Flying Help. Flying Help is something that in the Allgemeine Zeitung we've spoken about a lot. It's quite a nice initiative, originally initiated by Rainer Meutsch, who's a German aviator, and who, when he retired, decided he was quite well endowed, obviously, because he was into tourism as well. And then he decided, no, he'll build schools. And this one is now the 600th school that he's been building internationally. Now, on the other photo, you can actually see him shaking hands there, where they actually started off the school last week. I'm saying shaking hands, but like obviously they had a bit of a launch there. Ochiveka Primary School, which is up in Kokerveld, and that's where most of his initiatives have been in Namibia, not exclusively, but many of them, simply because that's where the biggest need in Namibia currently is. You find that many people tend to forget that Kokerveld, or the Kunene region, is actually one of the more needier regions in Namibia, especially as far as schooling is concerned. Now, Flying Help has been all over the world, so 600 schools haven't been only built in Namibia, but it doesn't matter how you look at it. If you are a person who initiates 600 schools internationally, you are somebody who's making an impact. So well done to Rainer Meutsch. He's the one on the left-hand side, by the way. Right, and those were our topics already for this week. Up next, we've got destinations. Right, welcome back. And yeah, this first item that I've looked at, I took a bit of a different approach this weekend for the simple reason that my colleague Izak Smith of Namibian Sun brought me an interview with Gitta Paetzold. She's obviously the CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia, HAN. You will remember we've been speaking to Gitta on many occasions. I think the last time we actually had her on the show was as part of our interviews that we brought you of the Hun Congress in Ludritz down in the south. Now, Ilani spoke to her about Namibia as a destination, and then obviously Gitta, being who she is, spoke about the positive developments. And so I looked up all these maps and photos simply because I felt there's a need to remind you. So if we look at Namibia as a whole on this map here, obviously we are a nice entry model towards Southern Africa. And in our tourism magazine, we've often spoken about the fact that from Namibia you can go towards Botswana or to Angola or Zambia or South Africa. So if we look at the next photo of our next map, this is more the north. You will remember that we've spoken about the Coca Veld on the left, with the Upuvu being discernible there on the left-hand top. Then obviously the 4O regions and also the northeastern areas, as well as here the south, where there's lots to be seen as well. It's not only Sossusvlei, it's Kalahari, it's further down to the Sperrgebied, Ludritz and the areas at Karasburg. So lots to be done in Namibia. And if we look at these photos, just going through them as we go, Namibia is a nice destination. This is obviously up in Kavango, at the Okavango River. And if we can, this is down the south, showing you these drastic color differences depending on what sort of geological features you find. And back up to the northeast again, where you find this elephant wading through water. This was not at Okavango, but rather in the Zambezi region, where obviously these elephants roam. This is further down in Kalahari again, because lions obviously don't only are found in the Etosha, but also in all these other regions. So if we look at the video, we will play you some of these photos as we go along. Obviously all types of areas in all types of places in Namibia. So we'll play some of these photos as we present the interview that Ilani and Gitta had the other day. So let's just have a look at the video.
Hi, good day. I'm Gitta Paetzold. I'm the CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia. It's a private sector organization that keeps the interests of the tourism accommodation sector in Namibia at heart. Tourism in Namibia is back. Obviously not to the extent that we had it in 2019 pre-COVID, so we're talking about pre and post-COVID. And while we cannot yet talk of post-COVID, because yes, Namibia is going into a winter season, there are very, very positive indications that we are on the mend. We are recovering quite healthily. If one looks at the amount of flights coming into Namibia from the region as well as from international markets, we are almost back to having 3 international airlines flying to Namibia. We've got Ethiopian Airways, we've got Eurowings. Very soon, at the end of June, we'll see Qatar return to Namibia. We've got TART flying in, Airlink from South Africa, connecting us to South Africa, and our own Fly Namibia that is now also servicing Johannesburg at least, but then also has opened up the fly routes within Namibia, filling the void of where our previous national airline connected people to the places like Swakopmund, and now we even see flights going, scheduled flights I should say, to Sossusvlei and even close to Etosha. So basically the systems are all ready to run. We are basically 6 weeks away from high season. Tourism high season starts in Namibia in July. Eurowings has already announced that as of July they will come in here with 10 flights a week. That's an absolute novice. Never has one airline flown more than once a day to Namibia. This time it will happen because there's huge demand. We've just had the Tourism Indaba in Durban, a huge international tourism indaba, where people were able to meet again face to face as well as virtual. This is the first big tourism get together after the World Travel Market Africa that took place in Cape Town, where some of our Namibian companies were as well. And from the feedback that I've received thus far is that Durban Indaba was really, really, really successful. A few less exhibitors or participants and a few less buyers than 2019, obviously, but those people that were there were as busy as ever. I had from one of our members the feedback that he was so busy he couldn't even speak to some of his colleagues from South Africa and Botswana because he was under so much demand. And that seems to be the general trend. Namibia is very popular at the moment, so it seems as though our image is a very positive one. Those wide open spaces and the safety that we can offer is something that speaks for us at the moment. So we have all reason to be optimistic about what's coming. But obviously there are still some issues where we need to fine-tune and we need to file our product. It's been 2 years of slow-mo, of being put back in the blocks and sort of being at a loss of what to do and what to expect in terms of a tourism recovery internationally. And yes, we have already had some feedback that there are some shortcomings. One of the big shortcomings that Namibia is facing is car rental cars, because yes, self-drive market we know has even picked up before COVID. Now after COVID even more so, because people like traveling in their own bubble, so they'd rather take their own car or 2 or 3 cars or a little bus and do their own little tours. And Namibia is very fast running out of cars because our car rental companies were forced to sell their fleet over the last 2 years because of COVID. But this is a problem that is not only true to Namibia, the whole of the Southern African region, and if I hear from international news sources, that's a worldwide problem. There are just not enough cars on the road at the moment for rental. So we should actually be glad that there is such a thing as Fly Safari Namibia, who are now connecting some of the iconic places such as Sossusvlei and Swakopmund and Etosha by flight. So there could be a consideration, if I can't get a car, I can still come to Namibia, fill the lodges, and that's obviously the importance that we have, and take a scheduled flight from Windhoek to Sossusvlei and be picked up there by a lodge and do the iconic experience of Sossusvlei and then hop over to Swakopmund and to Etosha. So that's all possible. That's a product that still needs to be developed and all fine-tuned. So we need the cooperation between the flight service providers and also the accommodation trade and the shuttle service operators as well, that would then have to take hands to make sure that people who can't get their own car to drive can be taken care of as well. Fortunately or unfortunately, Han has never had a time for the last 2 years for people to come together on a business level, face to face, and we are able to do it now. Coming up on the 2nd and 3rd of June, Han is going to host its Han Tourism Trade Fair again. This year we split it from our Congress and our Gala because of the logistics and the location. Our Congress and Gala took place in Lüderitz to unlock new horizons in the south. The HETF, which is going to take place here in Windhoek, is basically it's not for the public, it's for the tourism stakeholders, the operators in tourism, to meet, sit down face to face and fine-tune the tourism product that we are putting out to the market. There are a lot of questions to be had in terms of price structure, commissions, partnerships. There have been new issues and new demands from the international market in terms of safety and checks and balances in terms of vaccinations still coming up. So it's high time that we as tourism industry put the operators and the service providers face-to-face once again to talk about how does Namibia position itself in the market for the organized tourism that we as associations present. So I'm very excited to have the HETF come back to Namibia after 2 years of silence due to COVID. So everything is coming back. We are really just hopeful that our winter will be soft on us and that everybody takes caution. COVID has not mysteriously disappeared. We still have some of the threats that we need to take care of, and yes, some of the demands of the international market have been to step up the safety and security and health provision that are being provided. So there are a lot of issues that we still need to be aware of and make sure that we actually meet and exceed the expectations and demands of the international travel market. And yes, we are very popular and we've got everything going for Namibia, and I'm so hopeful that as a unit, as a country, we can get back to where we were in 2019 and even exceed those numbers.
Yeah, and that was CEO of HAN, of the Hospitality Association of Namibia, Gitta Paetzold, and she spoke, like I said, to Izak Smith. We just wanted to give you a bit of an indication of where Namibia is right now and where we're heading, what are the next positive developments in the tourism industry. And now the next one is a real destination, as we always present them. It's the Waterberg Park. It's Namibia Wildlife Resorts, the Gondwana-initiative resort. Here in the center, you see NWR Waterberg. I indicated it with that yellow pin, obviously being a Google map. You can see Otjiwarongo on the left-hand side. So as you go towards Otjiwarongo, about 30 kilometers before you reach Otjiwarongo, you can turn off towards your right, and then you spend about 40-50 kilometers on the tar road. So before you go forward towards Okakarara, you've got the turn off towards your left, and that, I must say, is a sand road. So it's a gravel road, beware. That's 2512, and there you can, right up on the top, you see Waterberg. It's not too far, but please beware. There is a kink in that road as you approach Waterberg, the resort. So don't drive too fast. There are two little sort of corners as you traverse that river that you can see at the bottom there, and people often underestimate it, and just be careful. It's quite easy to roll your car there. But it's not far, and it's a good road, generally speaking, so no reason to worry there. Here I've just given you a quick indication. If you look at the reception, quite close to the reception is also the camping. It's just on top where you see those green trees. Then you can go up the road and you have a cafe and restaurant and a pool. Quite nice to just enjoy the day up there even. And then further up, as you go quite steeply into the mountain already, you've got those chalets along the ridge. And yeah, and obviously if you do the bit of effort, you can walk or hike up to the mountain viewpoint. You can take part in game drives. There's lots to do. Waterberg is one of those little jewels that people tend to forget. This is the reception area as you approach it. Very nicely looked after and very clean, I must say. This is the camping area. I must admit, in past years, there was more, the lawns were in better conditions. And it sometimes surprises me that NWR neglects those lawns, I must admit, because I feel they've got the water out there at Waterberg. This is the pool area, and don't worry, it's not green, the water. It's simply, the color of the pool is brown. Sorry for that. Up here, this is quite a nice shot that I found on the internet site of NWR for Waterberg. Clearly, he took a bit of a water dive there before he was able to get away. He's quite wet. It sort of reminds me of Aris years ago, where apes would come for a swim. This is the sort of typical photo that you see from the bottom in the winter's time. Not much green left. I'm quite sure this must have been during the drought as well. But these were simply photos that I got from the internet site of NWR. This is the old police station, and it has been converted into a restaurant, and just up towards the right, you would find the pool area and that sort of thing. Very nice place to go for a walk. Lots of shade, no problem there. These are the bungalows. Just remember to always keep them locked when you're not there, because the apes, they go in there. So clearly you need to watch. Now, obviously that area is steeped in history, especially with a conflict between German colonial forces and the Herero folk that are at home in that area. This is just to show you that if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can go down to the war graves that are not far from the offices. Like I said, some people are interested in that type of thing, others are not. So the Plateau Park is a national park at this point in time, and it was established as a nature reserve in 1972. So the reason why it's well known, because it's been often used to introduce species there that were in danger. And so typically in 1989, the black rhino was introduced in that area from DeLHRA land. and successfully now they've reached that point where it can be used, basically migrated into other areas again. And similar, you've got game drives that take you up onto the plateau where you then can see buffalo. It's the only area in Namibia where buffalo are inside the country's borders, far away from the northeast, because it obviously, buffalo being the bearer of foot and mouth disease, that area needs to be well looked after in order to keep it clean of that disease. So anyway, that's, if you want to go there, have a look at what Enzo supplied us in terms of a video.
Hi guys, my name is Stanley, tour guide at NWR, Waterberg Resorts. This is our area, restaurant area. This part where I am, this is the restaurant where we have our guests always having some dinner and breakfast as served here. And this is a nice place while we are viewing the plateau, enjoying your breakfast and dinner. This is a very nice place. All right, this is our swimming pool for Waterberg Resort. This is where our guests enjoy and relax after having their breakfast and having some refreshment from the bar. This is the swimming pool where the guests enjoy themselves. Couples, also family and groups, they used to come and enjoy in this place.
Okay, this is our two-bed bush chalet where we accommodate 2 customers, and it's already made up. The room is already prepared, and we do have an ensuite bathroom with the toilet and the shower, whereby we are having the cupboard as well, where our customers can put their clothing and everything. We do have a coffee station whereby they can drink some tea or coffee in the afternoon or anytime they feel like while they are in the room. And then we do have a fridge as well, where they can keep their cold things for the 2 or 3 days that they are in the camp to enjoy themselves. And on the outside, we do have the rice stands as well, if they would like to do their own barbecue while they are in the camp or in the rooms. Alright, this one is our 4-bed bush chalet, whereby a family can stay. Like 4 people or a little bit more, and we do have also a coffee station with glasses and everything, and then we've got the 2 bedrooms, which is a twin bed as well, and it's already ready made up, whereby we are also having an ensuite bathroom with toilet and shower and a cupboard where the customers can put their clothing. And this is our lounge area where the customers can have their lunch or breakfast or whatever they want to eat, with more space as they can accommodate each other as a family, with the big table and everything.
walking trail here at Waterberg. When people they go up, and then when they go up, they can see nice view all the way to the top there. All right, we still see some different birds running under the bushes, and the nice, and also the walking trail walk all the way down. This is exit, this is entrance, and then is the exit the other side. So to the top there, it cannot go beyond to the park. Further is a park, but there's a red line there, but there's also some sign of the walking trail. So just follow the sign, then you're going to enjoy your walking trail. This is our walking trail. It's very nice. This is our campsite where people they do camp. And as you see now, it was rain season, nice and green. But we try to clean nice. And as you see now, people they start already camping. As I'm talking now, we have got a group already, 2 groups with the buses and trucks. They do camping here, nice big trees. You can come with your own tent here. We have got a lot of people coming with their own tent, especially the international guests, which are having their own tent on top. They do camp here, and we appreciate also have got a lot of nice big trees where people they can camp and enjoy the shade. And also have got also plugs. The power facility is also here. Every facility is there also. Showers. People that can do their own braai here, enjoying braai. It's a very nice campsite. As you see, it's very much big. It's going all the way that side where you see. It's still further to the end there. All this, as you see, this is our campsite. You see all the international guests, how they do it. They enjoy under the tree. That is our facilities. Shower and toilet. Also laundry there. They can do their own washing there. So you're welcome to come to this place. It's very nice.
Right, and that was Enzo Amuyele who gave us that contribution about NWR, Waterberg Park. I know some people have in the past been moaning that sometimes you get into these bungalows and they're not 100% in shape. The big thing is call it out, send us photos, because we've got quite a good connection to NWR, and I'm very sure that they would not be impressed if it was that way. But if nobody says it and only shares it on Facebook and not with us or anybody who can do something about it, then that's really where it stops. Those were our destinations for today, Namibia as a whole, and then obviously Waterberg. Up next, we've got this interesting interview with Izak Smith of DeLHRA under To The Point. Yeah, well, you will remember last week we spoke about DeLHRA, Desert Line Human Relation Aid, which is the initiative that partly looks or contributes towards looking after our desert-adapted lines up in the northwest of Namibia. That's in Koukerveld or Kunene region, whichever way you want to describe it. And I was able to make true on my promise that I would try to get hold of Izak Smith, who's the director of DeLHRA, and he spoke to us, so have a look at what he had to say. Right, last week we spoke about the fact that up in the northwest of Namibia we find that the whole line protection program seems to go for a bit of a loop, and so I'd promised you that I would try to get a hold of Izak Smith, who's the director of Desert Line Human Relation Aids, or not AIDS, aid I must say, so it's DeLHRA. Often spoken about on the show. And so, Izak, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Frank. Nice to be here again.
Yeah. Izak, instead of me just reminding our viewers once more why we're having this conversation, do me the favor and tell me quickly why you, as people up there, seriously are concerned about what is happening in this part of the world and with Namibia's world-renowned desert-adapted lions.
Yes, Frank, thank you. There are grave concerns for what we witness happening at this stage, regarding the diminishing of the population of mostly all animals in the ecological system post the drought. Hopefully the drought will now be broken. But so it doesn't just concern the desert lions, but all life forms in this very finely balanced ecological system. I mean, after all, we must remember the Namib Desert is the oldest desert in the world. It's more than 60 million years old. So the life forms that exist there have evolved over this time and adapted to the extremely harsh conditions. So what is happening with the human interference and the results and how that impacts back on the wildlife and the human population is what is of grave concern. And we have seen this now impacting on the predators. Normally predators is your best barometer for the health, as a health indicator of any ecological system. And in this instance, we see them dwindling. The numbers have come down from 115 about 5-6 years ago to the latest estimation is about 35 to 40 lions and barely hanging in there. And that's barely a viable population, in terms of bouncing back and in terms of a diminishing gene pool and so on and so forth. And ironically, the problems have been created by ourselves, the humans. The land use management is one big problem. You're looking at farming. It used to be mostly subsistence farming in this area, but you'll remember back in the Windal Commission times, people were relocated into this area. And it now is a mix of semi-nomadic pastoralists as well as the more smaller scale subsistence farmers. Now, what happens here and what concerns us most is how it is managed and how the actual boom and bust cycles of nature, which is imminent like death and taxes. The old people used to believe in the 7 lean years and the 7 fat years, and they're not far off. This is what happens, and it is more extremely so and more pronounced in the desert. And our concern is how this is managed and what the results of poor managements are and how it impacts. And like we all know, there's hardly any game left at the moment, and that has led to the predators being forced to actually predate on livestock. Now,
exactly, and then that's really what led to the demise of XPL 131, and we wrote about it a lot in the Allgemeine Zeitung, and it was in reaction to an open letter that Izak, on behalf of DeLHRA, had written to the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. And what it basically boiled down to is that communal leaders were actually asking for a trophy to be awarded almost. And so when the death warrant for lion XPL 131 was technically sealed, simply because they had decided there needs to be a hunting trophy, the Ministry of Environment then issued a press statement that explained the intent to remove XPL 131 as a so-called problem animal. And I quote what they actually wrote here. I made a note here. It says, "We call upon Namibians to be wary of individuals and organizations whose only interest is to discredit the ministry. They have done very little to assist the communities or authorities to remedy this situation. They only wait for decisions to be taken and then find things to criticize." Now, to me, this was almost a slap in the face for the likes of DeLHRA, because you guys are obviously much involved in all types of initiatives, not only in protecting the lion, but to actually make it, to enable the local people to protect themselves by getting all these little gadgets in place, and not last but least, what do you call them,
Collars.
The collars. And
Yeah.
so obviously, you know, what I want to know from you, was this sort of note from them, was this the result of MEFT simply already suspecting that you guys would be angry and that you would protest and take them on this item? Or had you already protested and threatened with further action?
Frank, like always, we do the ministry the courtesy of approaching them first whenever these things happen and there are incidents. And then we first, because they're the regulating authority, we first approach them. In this instance, we approached them on the 8th of April. The lion was shot on the 1st of April. Despite two undertakings on WhatsApp by the PR public relations officer to respond, we haven't received any responses after 5 weeks. And as usual, that actually left the only avenue open to us, as per usual in the past, the media and social media to get the message across. We are pretty much excluded as an NGO. The ministry works with some recognized NGOs. We call it an exclusive club because we are excluded. And if you're then being ignored, it is very difficult to get the message across. You've got to make use of whatever avenues are available. So it's by no means a matter of taking on the ministry or fighting with them or any other NGOs. It's a matter of grave concern, and we need to get a message out, and we need to know what is going to be done about this, as the ministry is mandated to seek solutions and remedies. And it's also our mandate in terms of MOUs with the conservancies. So the communication there and the preempting of the ministry stating that they will be criticized, I don't know what that is based on, but like I said, that's how it's worked in the past. And in serious incidences where lions were poisoned, we were also ignored, even though we gave them a smoking gun, confessions, everything. So yeah, that is very disconcerting, but unfortunately, that's how it is.
So if we look at the procedure, what does the procedure entail to identify a problem animal, and where do you see the flaw in the system?
Normally, they've got a HWC, Human Wildlife Conflict policy, which clearly defines the protocols to be followed. An animal should be reported and identified and destroyed within a certain period, which is normally 48 or up to 72 hours. And there are rules and ways how this should be done to avoid killing the wrong animal, because remember, the lions are a specially protected species. So, you cannot just go and out of revenge go and shoot any old lion. But now what has happened, the quotas had been stopped, the hunting quotas, the trophy hunting quotas, because of the clear non-sustainability, to avail these lions for revenue, because they're in a precarious position. So what now happens is that you do find that Namibia is one of the only countries, if not the only country, that allows so-called problem-causing animals to be converted into trophies, in order to, as they say, not to waste the resource, and for the money then to go back into conservation or compensation of whoever has incurred losses. Now, there's a reason this has been stopped in countries like Zambia, because it opens a Pandora's box and a window of opportunity for corruption. And we have seen this in a couple of incidences. There's, it's been lions, males that's been hunted, and we call it pure fabrication of problem-causing animals, and it leaves that window open to abuse, and the population simply cannot afford it at this stage, and that makes for poor conservation. And also, like I said, it only opens windows of opportunity to corruption. So it is just peculiar that Namibia allows that, but for obvious reasons, most other countries have stopped that practice.
Yeah, and it doesn't only affect Namibia, or the lions, I wanted to say. It affects, we remember not that long ago, we got that disastrous report that actually spoke about the oryx also being in dire straits in that same area. So simply there's too much hunting going on, and it's probably a vicious cycle on account of the drought. So the question now is obviously, how can these desert adapted lines really be saved? Because if we look at it, more and more you get the impression when you report about this on a continuous basis, you see that there's a bit of pressure from the local community who would be quite happy not to have the desert adapted line at all, it would sometimes seem, because then they can decide what antler to hunt and whatever, however they run that whole area, because they would be competing for the same prey. So the question is now, if this desert adapted line is gone forever, I would regard it as a serious crime, to be dead honest. I mean, once they're gone, they're gone. So what can DeLHRA and other international community organizations, or the community as a whole, what can we do to save these animals?
Yes, the old saying, the wisdom of retrospect and history repeating itself. We should learn from the lessons from the past, and we've seen that over this recent prolonged drought we had. This vicious circle you rightfully mentioned, the exacerbation of human-lion conflict is a direct result of poor land management and of the human actions themselves. If you remove the prey of the lions, obviously we all know by now, those lions will come searching for food in your kraals and at your farmstead. So we need to learn from that, and we need to accept the fact that if you disturb the ecology and you disturb the prey predator density ratios, there are going to be consequences. And the only way, considering that tourism is the biggest earner of revenue in the conservancies, these are poor areas, we need to preserve that, and areas need to be earmarked and gazetted as protected areas where wildlife and tourism should be left undisturbed, to be optimized as a source of revenue. And a proper custodianship should be given to whoever invests. And of course, there should be strategic partnerships, and the conservancy community should benefit most by this. But it should be then respected and protected by law, and the ecology must be balanced to its former glorious balance. That will in itself solve a lot of problems. But you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have consumptive tourism, earning the maximum after boom periods where the game is in abundance, and you take the game and you create the artificial short-term economy by benefiting from that, but you create longer-term problems which then come and haunt you in the form of human-lion conflict. So good management, good land management, and proper protection of these areas, and then also it must be valued for what it is. At the moment, it is very. COVID has taught us that it's one of the most biggest earners of revenue for these poor communities.
Yeah, so the final question before we part from my side would then be, is there impact from international organizations? Are there people who are interested in assisting?
I am sure you will find investors, once concessions are given out in gazetted protected areas. There is mention of so-called people's parks. So there is a school of thought into this direction, which is heartwarming for us. I'm sure that you will then find investors, and the communities will then benefit by that. As it stands now, there's a negative sentiment because people hear and see and hear about the poor management and the results, the lions being eradicated. And that could lead to some form of tourism boycott, So good, sound conservation principles. We should get back to the drawing board, learn from the recent history. What happened when we removed the prey, and how long will it take now to recover and recuperate these very sensitive ecological areas? We should learn from that, and like I said, then optimize revenue from this source, and then realize that that consumptive tourism You cannot compare this to game farms where you can actually manage the stock numbers and so on. This is subjected to the forces of nature, and
Yeah,
that must be
and I
respected
mean,
and
that's the
realized.
idea, is it not?
So yeah, that would be the solution, and then strategic partnerships, of course, like the Panama concession. It's a
Yeah.
success story. Why not just expand that and elaborate on that same principle? Because that is up to now still the greatest revenue stream for three of the biggest conservancies. Because of that, you know.
Anyway, so thank you for your insight there. That was Izak Smith of the Desert Line Human Relation Aid, which is obviously dedicated towards looking after our desert lines. And I thought it was quite important to just get that point of view and understand why that organization is so focused on getting a change and hopefully getting the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism to just maybe listen up and lend them an ear. I'm certain that this should be done. Something needs to be done if we want these lines as a heritage for not only us, but for our children's children. Anyway, thank you, Izak, and I thank you and have a nice day.
Thanks for having me, and to you and the listeners.
Okay, thanks. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Right, and that was our DeLHRA contribution. It was a bit long, but I felt it sort of shed a better light on what's happening there. And I truly feel that MEFT, that's our Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, they simply need to make a plan to have a serious look. I find it strange when a ministry out of principle excludes any organization that really changes and contributes towards change. If you go onto the internet site, whether it's Facebook or the internet site itself of DeLHRA, you will see that these guys actively contribute towards the livelihood of these people, actively contribute towards making sure that there are collars and that there are early warning systems, that protection is built for the local folk. So to say no, but they're just moaning and they're not contributing, I think is a principally unfair statement. So that's why I thought we need to talk about it. There's no such thing as people just being negative anyway and just brushing it off. I thought the MEFT wasn't very professional in doing it that way. Anyway, that's my personal opinion in that regard. So you might differ from it. If you do, please feel welcome to contact me and tell me why you think we're on the wrong path here. This is the end of our program for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the contributions did raise your interest, and we remain in the same place, same time next week again. See you then. I hope you still have a pleasant Sunday afternoon, and especially a good week ahead of yourselves. Until then, remain healthy.